Hello everybody, Jake, your resident content cowboy here. Yeehaw, it's Monday, it's time for a tier list. Let's do it. This is going to be a very straightforward one. I'm going to rank all of the Pokemon since Tsareena has entered the game and we've seen some balance changes. All of this could shift around, and just because I put a Pokemon low or high doesn't mean that you have to prioritize them in that way. There are Pokemon at the bottom of this list that I love and Pokemon at the top of this list that I really don't care for that much. But in general, I think this is where all of these Pokemon shake out. And this will mostly be all play except for the most coordinated teams. However, the most coordinated teams also take advantage of some of these top Pokemon. Let's do it. All right, let's take a look at our tiers here. We have the God tier, where I will place one Pokemon that I think is godly right now. It's the God tier. There's only one. We're not freaking Norse around here. We've got the so good and cool tier, S tier. We've got the A, fantastic choice tier, A tier. We've got the B tier. Still got the B tier. B tier. The could do worse tier, C tier, and the did worse tier, D tier. So I think all these Pokemon are going to relatively decent when you're climbing through the ranks, solo and stuff like that. Some of them just have more trouble the further and further you get into higher level competitive play. We have our Crashy logo here. Crashy right now, strangely enough, made his way to the B tier. Interesting choice. B tier. Maybe I'll put him God for now. All right, let's see here. So here are all of our Mons. Where would we like to start? Let's start with the Speedsters. I want to talk about the Speedsters first. We've got you. How are there not more Speedsters? Don't you ever just go, why? Why aren't there more Speedsters here? Okay, so we've got Absol, Zeraora, Talonflame, and Gengar. As a group, the Speedsters were not doing so great a little while back. This was maybe a month and a half ago or so, and then some nice changes came into the game, and all of them seem to rise in viability considerably. And interestingly enough, in the most recent patch, one of them has lost some viability. So let's talk about all of them here. If I were to spread them out right now, I would probably spread them something like this. So this isn't necessarily where I'm putting them all, but if I were to, this is what this would look like. Gengar is always in a tough spot. It's not that it's terrible in every sense. It can solo some amazing situations with Pokemon. You can just throw an insane amount of damage at people with Shadow Ball Dream Eater. Sludge Hex, I really think, is not a great build anymore. However, again, solo queue, duo queue, you're climbing, you could do fine with Gengar. Coordinated team-wise, it just doesn't fill a role that you really need. You don't really need an assassin-y type Pokemon like that. It works okay in some situations, but with so many Pokemon like finding ways to heal themselves and become unstoppable and move all around the map, Gengar is just in such a weird spot. I think I called him Gengar there. Gengar's in a weird spot. Absol, I think, is actually pretty decent. Rising up in the ranks here. It used to be a really low tier Pokemon, but I think Absol's doing pretty decently right now. I even saw it in a tournament recently, in I think the finals of a tournament. So it is inching its way towards viability. The issue with Absol is it does fall off a bit late game. Its damage doesn't really stay there. It's really squishy. It isn't as good as some of the other Speedsters at stealing objectives, so I think it would probably hang out in this B tier in reality as well. And then we've got Zera and Talon. Talon you could probably put in the S tier. In fact, Zeraora you still might be able to put in the S tier here, but Zeraora did get a nerf to its most important set of moves. And while the Wild Charge Spark is good right now, there's also a bug going on. So I can't fully say where I see Zera shaking out. I don't think it's lost so much viability that you can't play it. I would venture a guess to say that it will stay here in the A tier. Talon also could be considered A tier as well, if I'm being honest. It might not be an S tier Pokemon. It's one of my favorite Pokemon to play. For the moment, I'm going to leave it S. And I'm going to try to separate each category like this a little bit, but inevitably things will be in the same tiers because some Pokemon are just so amazingly good. Let's talk about defenders. Blastoise. Start with all of them in the B tier. Why not, Jake? Blastoise, Slowbro. Snorlax, Krusty Boy, Greedent, Mamoswine. We got a lot of defenders here. So all of them have been through some changes. Snorlax is the most interesting one. Well, there's actually a few interesting ones in this patch. I think Mamoswine's viability has gone way up. It evolves and gets its moves quicker, and its high horsepower has been fixed. I truly think Mamoswine has gone from probably a C tier-ish Pokemon. I think it might be A tier right now. Defenders are always good. They're really, really bulky. They help control the fights. They actually do a lot of damage. So I think Mamo is in a really great spot with this most recent patch. Again, they did so much to help Mamo out. Blastoise, I think, is still pretty good. I'd keep him B. I think they nerfed him a while back, and that hurt. But at the same time, I think Blastoise is still in a really, really good position. So you could pick maybe some better choices, but I think Blastoise is B. One that I want to talk about before we even get to Slowbro is Snorlax. Snorlax is a weird one for me. So I think Snorlax is A. But Snorlax not only got a bit of a buff, it also got a slight nerf, which is interesting. So Snorlax's block used to be bugged, where you would get a shield when you were using it. And now you no longer get that shield until it's upgraded, I believe. Let me pull up Unite DB here, just so I can read you off exactly how this works and what was changed. So this is kind of a stealth, it's like a buff nerf, you know? I thought it was going to have a little bit more of a buff in this moment. However, here's block. So Snorlax creates a wall in a targeted direction for 4 seconds and gains a shield. The shield lasts 3.75 seconds if block is canceled early. Enemies that contact the wall are knocked back and stunned. Snorlax cannot attack or use abilities when blocking. Oh, and it's not the shield that was changed. It is the level 13 upgrade. While blocking, Snorlax's defense and special defense are increased by 25%. That was happening already with the move. So when you had the first level of block, it's like you had block plus. Now you're not getting that. So the Flail Yawn build, without question, was buffed. Snorlax in general was kind of buffed because you're getting all the moves earlier. However, block got kind of a secret nerf there. So right now I think it's probably still an A tier choice, especially for coordinated teams. Solo, I think Snorlax has some trouble, although early game it's amazing. So right now I still think it's A tier, but it might shift down into B tier if that block change really, really hurts it. Did I say Slowbro 50 times there? I feel like I did now that I'm talking like, was I saying Slowbro the entire time? God, I'm dumb. Slowbro, now. Slowbro's a weird one. It's always kind of hanging around the B and C tier in the meta, and I don't think really anything has happened to change that. It's good, not great. There are just other options that you'd rather have. In that sense, I could see it B, but I'll keep it C for now. Greedent. Greedent keeps getting nerfed, and it needs it. It needs these nerfs because it was overpowered. The most recent nerf, I don't know. I'm not so sure I'm in love with the fact that they nerfed it again. I thought they kind of brought it into a place where it was A tier, but not S anymore. Now I'm a little worried about Greedent, and I actually might put Greedent in the C tier right now. I think I will. Yeah, I think I will put Greedent in the C tier. Crustle is someone that I notoriously think is a great Pokemon, especially solo. However, they also have nerfed Crustle. One of those really bizarre nerfs. I can't, for the life of me, understand why they would want to nerf this Pokemon. It didn't need it at all. So now my thought is Crustle hangs out low. Solo queue, I still think it's pretty good, probably hanging out in B. But as far as competitive looks, I think you probably put this at one of the bottom choices inside the entire game. I really do. They've changed how scoring works, which is one of the things Crustle abused like crazy. They changed the fact that Crustle's Stealth Rock and Rock Tomb can no longer critically hit, which I don't understand. So Scope Lens Crustle is out of the picture. They just keep making it harder and harder for Crustle to do well. Right now, I'll probably put him C. I think so, but it's low. I'm really disappointed in seeing Crustle get an odd nerf. It didn't need a nerf. It didn't need a nerf in my opinion. But taking away critical hits from all of its moves, without question, is a nerf for Crustle. The way scoring interacts with the game hurts Crustle and Greedent. So yeah, I think that's where I'd set him for now. Probably C tier here. Okay, let's look at we have a lot of attackers. We have all these all-rounders. Let's talk about our all-rounders here. Mr. Chomp, Mr. Lucario, Mr. Champ, Mrs. Tsareena, who's she married to, and Char. Great. So here are our all-rounders. We recently had Tsareena, and soon we're going to have Dragonite as well. It's raining all-rounders around here. Hallelujah, it's raining all-rounders. Drinking coffee, ooh. Will I edit that out? I highly doubt it. Okay, Garchomp, Lucario. Machamp, Tsareena, Charizard. Lucario is still great. It's gotten nerfed, but it's still great. It might not have the same effect on the meta anymore, which is cool, but I think there's no question that Lucario is a top tier pick still. Even with the nerfs, it still does things that other Pokemon really can't. It has insane mobility, it scores well, it stacks well, it KOs enemy Pokemon, it steals objectives. Lucario is still very, very, very good. However, we might not see the same strategy in a solo top lane. I was watching a lot of tournaments again this weekend, and I was seeing the meta shift up there, which is really cool. That doesn't mean Lucario is not great, though. It's still really great. Okay, next, Garchomp. Garchomp, Garchomp, Garchomp. Garchomp, Garchomp, Garchomp. Why did they take away Garchomp's critical hit abilities on its dragon moves? Why? I don't even understand it. It got a buff and then it gets a nerf. Why? It didn't. I just am so why with this Pokemon. I'm putting it back. It's in the did worst tier. I'm sorry. It evolving early, great. I've heard, from really good Garchomp players that the build is now the ground build. I don't know why they did that to this Pokemon, and I still think it hangs out down there. I really do. Someone could argue with me and say it's moved its way up into the C tier, but I just think the choices they have made with this Pokemon are absolutely bizarre, and it's a bummer. Machamp in the B tier? Yeah, I like that. I think Machamp's solid. I think the problem with Machamp is you are probably going to run Tsareena or Lucario instead of Machamp, but I think Machamp's a solid pick. I could see someone saying maybe it's kind of closer to C tier, but I think it's a good solid pick, and Char kind of does the same. I can't really move Char up into the A tier, I don't think, but I do think it's a good solid pick. Char and Machamp both here in the B tier. Char probably edging it out a bit because that Unite can really punish some of the carries in the game. Now we've got Tsareena. I think Tsareena is an S tier Pokemon. Newest released, and I do think it's quite S. I don't think it's crazy OP and has to be nerfed immediately like Greedent was, or like Greedent needed to be, and Sylveon was. I think it's good, and I think some of its survivability will get tuned down. But even once its survivability is tuned down, I still think it'll be a very good Pokemon. It probably will settle into the A tier at that point, but right now, I think it's an S tier choice. I guess in that sense, for I don't know what the point of splitting hairs here is on this, but yeah, I would say it's kind of sort of broken a little bit with some of its healing. It just survives too long in some of these crazy encounters, but that's what it does. That's kind of what it's set up to do. Let's take a look. What do we want to do next, Jake? Do we want to do supports or attackers? Let's do supporters. Why not? Let's talk about Mime and Blissey and Eldegoss and Wiggly. Is there anyone else? No. Okay. Blissey, Eldegoss, Mime, Wiggly. As I've said many times, the supports in this game are in such a great place. They're all really, really good, all extremely viable, all good on teams. You won't find a single support lower than A tier, in my opinion. I think they're all A and S tier choices. You can't really go wrong with any of them. Eldegoss is without question one of the most useful Pokemon in the game. It steals objectives with Leaf Tornado. It gives the entire team a shield and heals them. Its Unite move steals objectives and heals the team. It's incredibly good. The game needs more supports, but Eldegoss is just so good. I don't even know. Okay, here's what I think this is going to buck the trend of some tier lists, but here's what I think about this. I think Blissey is an A tier choice. Really good, but a little more specific. Good early in the lane, really nice at stealing objectives, good for healing, but not as good as Eldegoss in my opinion. And now we have Mime and Wiggly. I think both Mime and Wiggly are S tier Pokemon. Mr. Mime, you will see in essentially any competitive team out there, and it's also amazing solo queue. It does insane damage. Its Unite move stops people from taking actions. It's tanky. It controls the battlefield, whether you use Guard Swap or you use the barriers. Confusion is amazing. It only has one bad ability, which is Psychic, but nobody would ever run it because Confusion is just so good. I think Mr. Mime is without question S tier choice. And Wiggly, I think some people think A. No. Wiggly is my Moneyball Pokemon right now. I think Wiggly is so good, especially so good coordinated, but its ability to... even if you use rollout, it's still really good. It's so tanky, but its ability to sing the enemy team to sleep in some important fights is amazing. Its Unite move to give the entire team that massive shield can absolutely change a team fight. I think Wiggly is a top tier choice. That's my opinion on all the supports. All amazing Pokemon. If your team doesn't have one, get one. And if you already got one, get two. Some teams run two, and it ain't too bad. Okay. All of these attackers coming next. Okay, here we go. We got a lot of attackers to get through here. Cinder, Cram, Gardevoir, Greninja, Ninetales, Decidueye, Pikachu, Sylveon, and Venusaur. We'll just start where we're at. We've got Cinderace. I think Cinderace is an A tier Pokemon. It's almost S. It might be S, but I think Cinderace is probably an A tier Pokemon. Probably the top of A tier. The issue with Cinderace is if we're looking at all play, you know, with a Pokemon like this, it's a little tough sometimes in solo queue, and it outputs a ton of damage and it shreds tanks. Basically, and I'll put Greninja here as well. Basically, Cinderace and Greninja fill the same role, this 80 carry role, and most teams are going to run them if they have someone in the jungle. Your other options are Talonflame, Zeraora for that jungle role, Tsareena for that jungle role. If you want to run some of the all-rounders, like if you want someone like Char, Machamp, they can all fill out that role pretty well. So does Venusaur. I think what Cinderace and Greninja, the only reason they're not S tier for me is because there are many other Pokemon that you might put in that position competitively. However, in general, they're both so incredibly good. Greninja did get a little bit of a nerf recently, but I haven't seen its viability fall off so much that I would say it's down into the B tier here. We might even move Cinder S. We might even move Cinder into the S tier, because I think Cinder is kind of a top tier choice in the jungle, especially competitively. I'm not sure. Right now, I'm keeping it A. That's where I think both of these Pokemon land. Both really, really good, similar roles. You want them in the jungle so they can get all that experience. Their ganks are not so good early on, but man, they just ramp up and become absolute beasts late game. Let's talk about Cramorant. Cramorant's a Pokemon that I think, besides the fact that it's bugged and extremely broken right now, Cramorant's a Pokemon that I think is in a bad spot in this game right now. I really don't think it's very good in the meta. I don't think it's good competitively. They nerfed its Surf Hurricane, or maybe it was just Surf that got the nerf. They nerfed either Surf or Hurricane or both at one point, and they nerfed its Unite move. Its Dive Air Slash build is a bit better, and I would say maybe run it, but the Dive Air Slash build feels a lot like Gengar to me, where you just go, yeah, this is good, but when am I ever going to play like this? I don't know. And then they nerf its Unite move. Cram is one of my favorite Pokemon, and I don't like what they are doing with Cram right now. In fact, you could see this whole could do worse list. These are some of the funnest Pokemon to play. They were in such cool positions in the game, and I really think they've hurt them. I'm mad about it. I'm kind of mad about what's going on with Cram right now, and I'm mad about the bug happening with Cram. Someone could argue that it's B tier. Yeah, maybe. I don't think so. I actually think it's kind of a lower tier Pokemon, unfortunately, right now. It needs to get a buff. I have no idea why they shouldn't have nerfed it. Gardevoir, on the other hand, Gardevoir is shooting way up. Just like Mamoswine, I'm going to make the bold prediction that it's an A tier choice. I think most people would set this Pokemon in the B tier, but I think Guard is so good right now. We have not seen what Guard is capable of competitively. It evolving earlier is so important. It's weird because with Garchomp, it evolving earlier is helpful, but Gardevoir being able to evolve, being able, if it's a jungler, to have its move for the first bees. So you either have Future Sight or Psyshock, or Bears, I should say right now, for the first Bears fight at 850. That's huge. It being in lane now, you're not so punished early in lane. You get all of your upgraded moves earlier. I think Gardevoir is in such a great position in this game right now. It's low A or high B, I think. It's very, very good. So much better than it was. Decidueye, this is going to be a controversial choice. Oh, we've got Ninetales here. I'll do that in a sec just because I started talking about Decidueye. I think Decidueye is a C-tier Pokemon right now. I don't love this Pokemon. Yeah. You know, it's just so squishy. Its mobility is really, really poor. In certain situations, it goes wild, but I would rather have both Cinderace or Greninja over this Pokemon. So I think its biggest problem is its mobility. It's just when it's caught, it's done. Even its Unite move, it plants in place, kind of like Cramorant, but it doesn't do that much damage. So I think it's not terrible. You can do well with Decidueye, but you don't see it competitively really at all. Solo-wise, I feel like you're really gambling here because if your team doesn't come to help you, you're in trouble. Now, you could support this Pokemon really well and it could do well inside the game. Every single one of these Pokemon could, but I don't think Decidueye is in a good spot in this game right now at all. When it was released, it was doing tons of damage, but it's just not that hard to play against. It's a pretty easy Pokemon to play against. Then again, when it starts going, things go pretty well. Okay. Ninetales and Pikachu can kind of be talked about in the same breath. Both of these Pokemon, here's what it is. Competitively, I think you put both these Pokemon here in the A Fantastic Choice. Solo, I think both these Pokemon drop down to the B tier. So the problem is neither of them have good mobility at all. You kind of have some control over the battlefield with both of them, so you can get out of situations, but in a similar sense to Decidueye, with no support, these Pokemon are in a lot of trouble. However, if your team's doing well, they're so good right now. They do a lot of damage. Ninetales has incredible control. I am going to put them both into the A tier here, even though I think, again, that delineation. Solo, they drop down. Maybe even lower in some respects for Ninetales. It's just so slow, it feels like. But coordinated, I think they're both really good. They both perform really well in that tri-lane, and that's when there are 3 Pokemon in the bottom lane. We'll see if that meta continues here. I think these are either A or B. Teetering into B. This is where I put them. Sylveon is a tough one for me because it's one of my favorite Pokemon to play. Competitively, I think it's okay. It just has no control. So unlike Ninetales and Pikachu, Sylveon in the lane, it does dish out damage, which is really cool, but it doesn't have any moves to control. Pikachu has its Thunderbolt, which stuns. Ninetales has kind of a bunch of, all of its moves really do some interesting control aspects. Because of that, I think Sylveon's probably high B tier, even though I love Sylveon and it's one of my favorite Pokemon to play. I think it is outclassed. Here's the thing. Solo, I switch these. Competitively, this is where they are. So in a more competitive game, I think Sylveon's B. Solo, I think Sylveon moves up to A, and these 2 Pokemon, Ninetales and Pikachu, move down to B. It's really just based on how you're playing there. Yeah. I might even do this. Maybe. Now I just think me putting Sylveon there is just kind of me saying, look, I love this Pokemon and I love to play it. Maybe. I'll think about that. I'll think about it. So that's every Pokemon out here. Oh, Venusaur. I forgot to mention Venusaur. Venusaur's S tier. Venusaur's so good. Started the game as a bad Pokemon, and now Venusaur is just so good. Petal Dance, Giga Drain is so incredibly powerful. They nerfed it a little bit, but they just couldn't stop it. It's one of the best Pokemon in the game. It's probably, if we were to rank these, it's near the top up here. Talon's probably the lowest one on this entire list. That's what I'd say. And now it's time to figure out who the God tier is. Crashy, you're going to be dethroned here. So, what Pokemon do I think is God tier out of this right here? People would say Lucario. Here's the argument for each one. Lucario is still amazing, does Lucario things, can solo top by itself. Yeah, that's God tier. Tsareena, the healing and combos is insane. It's going to be nerfed. God tier, yes. Eldegoss, best support in the game, probably heals the entire team, gives them a shield, steals objectives. Yeah. Mr. Mime, tanky as heck, incredible with its confusion, incredible moving things around the battlefield. Its Unite move stops multiple people from being able to take actions. Yeah. Venusaur. It runs around the battlefield. It's unKOable. It's everywhere. It's so good. It's just amazing. Talonflame. Talonflame, huge amount of burst damage, huge amount of steel. Charges its Unite move like crazy. Solo, maybe one of the best Pokemon in the game. Competitively, it does fall off a little bit. And then Wiggly. Wiggly is my choice. It's my god tier choice. This is my list. You can't tell me what to do with it. I think Wiggly is so freaking good right now. It is the Moneyball Pokemon. What I mean by that is there was a draft tournament we did recently, and every time Wiggly was on a team, it won. I think Wiggly is just amazing. Every time I see it in coordinated play, I think it's so oppressive, so mean. The Japanese teams were running Rollout with it and crushing. People were running Sing with it and crushing. It's so good. I know it's crazy. I know you didn't expect it, but Wigglytuff is my god tier Pokemon choice. I hope you enjoyed that tier list. Now comes the fun part. Time to do this to a tier list. It's always fun to mix it around. Nothing wrong with mixing our tier list. Yeah. Mix it up. Mix it up. Who do I want to put in the god tier? No. Okay. So, the big thoughts again are just Gardevoir has become so incredibly good that it is the best Pokemon in the game without question. It evolving earlier has now made it the strongest Pokemon in the game. You're able to get all of its moves that you needed for late game. Now you can have them kind of at the mid game point. I think that's pretty impressive. Now the only issue with Gardevoir is, of course, Absol. Absol is the counter to Gardevoir. It runs right up to it. It is not worried about its abilities. It dashes around everything. So you have the best Pokemon, and then you also have the best Pokemon's counter, which is Absol. Garchomp almost makes it. This new buff really almost does it for Garchomp. And then, of course, we have Tsareena, who is also doing amazing. Blastoise and Cram, you know, they're not going anywhere at the top of this list. Of course, neither is Lucario. And then we see, unfortunately, Zeraora nerfed into oblivion. We are not seeing Zeraora in games. Same thing with a lot of our supporters now, Wiggly and Mime. We don't see as much Wiggly and Mime because why would you have a Wigglytuff or a Mr. Mime when you could just have Tsareena, Absol, Lucario, even a Pokemon like Mamoswine, you know, you would rather have them than one of the supports inside the game. So there you go. Let me know what you think in the comments. I hope you enjoyed that. It's Monday. It's time for a tier list. I love you all. Mwah! On Wednesdays, we wear pink.